Sorry about that, everyone.
I think that's a new feature, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we can go ahead and I think get started since you're recording.
Okay, sure. I think Nick is just joining us also in the waiting room.
Okay, great.
But yeah, okay, cool. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making time. I know it's a little bit early in the morning, and for man, that's quite late. But we really just wanted to, put this session together because I think there's still a lot of confusion around the quarterly surveys that we send out as part of the program. So Amanda has kindly offered to kind of go through the survey and walk us through it so that the next time that we do send the surveys, we'll be able to get more accurate information. So you all know Amanda from our first session at the beginning of the year on impact measurement. So Amanda leads MEAL, which is monitoring and evaluation and learning at Habitat for Humanity's Trilogy Center for Innovation and Shelter. So Amanda, yeah, I'm
Thanks,
passing it on
Kat.
to you. Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see virtually everyone again. And I hope you're all doing okay. I know there's a lot going on in the world beyond the important work that you're doing here. So I just wanted to go through the quarterly survey quickly to talk about some common issues that I'm seeing in the data. And I'll share some things that are coming up as we go through it. And then I also may have to reach out to some of you in the next week or so to try and get some corrected data for things from the last quarter. And the reason that we meet this again is to get interest in this accelerator program, to also get additional interest in housing startups like you, and so that we can also report back to you all on how everyone is doing as part of this accelerator. So I will go ahead and share my screen. I think I'm able to. Yes, great. And hopefully you all can now see my screen. Hello, there we go.
Yes, we
Can
can.
anyone? Perfect, thank you. So this is the form that you all have been asked to fill out as part of the quarterly survey. My screen may look slightly different because I'm actually in a test mode in Survey CTO, which is the platform that we use. And so it may look slightly different, but all the questions should be the same. So when you start the survey, you're clicking which accelerator you're part of, and then you're able to choose your startup from the list right here and put the date and the quarter. It's very important when you get the survey that you use the link that's specific to your startup, because even if you choose your startup here, there's a back end feature of the survey functionality that allows me to link all of your data over time to your startup in a different way, in a more concrete way than just using one of these selections allows for. So when you get those individualized links, please make sure that you are using those. And then one of the first things I've seen is this is calendar year quarter. From the last quarter, we had a couple of selections besides quarter one, but we're using this as a calendar year quarter. So you would select or type in 2021, and then would have said Q1, and the next quarter will be Q2. So make sure you're choosing by calendar year quarter. Did you raise any capital over the last quarter? This seemed to be mostly okay. A lot of people also said no, because I know some of you are just really getting started. But if you do select yes to did you raise any capital over the next quarter, you're asked how many different sources that capital came from. So how many different organizations or institutions or investors did you receive capital from? And let's say you put one, The number doesn't matter. You should put as many as you received capital from. When you click that, it will create this page, as you can see here, that has questions for every source of capital. So if you selected 2 or 3, you'd go through the same page again, and then you click the source of the capital and the type of investment. I had one organization or one startup, I can't remember from which accelerator, that selected other for both and had 3 different sources, and I'll have to follow up with them because I want to make sure we have a complete list here. And so if you select other, I will will be following up to make sure that we have a complete list, but you would choose the source. So that's again, the institution or organization or type of investor, and then the type of investment, equity, debt, grant, or other. And I encourage you, if you have questions about this, to follow up with me or to follow up with Kath or her team, just to clarify, hey, this is the capital that we raised over this quarter. What do you think we should select here? And then you'd put the amount, so you can only put a number here, and then you could indicate the currency in your response so that we then can convert things to the currencies that we need to report out on. Also, if I'm going through these pages and you have questions, you can either unmute, there's not a lot of us here, or I think there's a raise hand function or something like that, but please stop me if you have any questions. And one thing about this survey is most of the questions are required. So if I leave this field blank, it'll say, sorry, this response is required, and you'll have to fill in that information. And make sure to also double check your numbers. I found a couple that I think someone had added an extra 0 or had mistyped something. So just double check those. And then it's going to ask you for your profits over the last quarter. So you would put that in, let's say 2,000, and then again, your currency that you're using to report those profits, and then the amount of runway time you have. And again, if you have questions, please reach out if you're not really sure what to put here. And then this is the area that I think was a bit confusing, perhaps, is over the last quarter, how many different kinds of products and services did you sell? So in the first quarterly survey, we realized that this wasn't very clear and that some people were putting the total number of products and services they sold. You know, I make bricks, I sold 1,000 bricks. And so we were getting an answer here like 1,000. And so we added this note here to say, this is the number of unique products or services you offer that you would be selling. So if you have 2 different kinds of blocks, or you have a solar home system, or you have 3 different kinds of surveys, you'd put that the number of those in here, and then it's going to do the same thing where it creates, and you should only put in a number here if you actually sold anything. If you didn't sell anything, you can put 0. But if you sold, let's say you really specialize in a home solar system and you sold a couple of those, that's 1 product. You click next, and it'll be taken to this page to say, okay, what's the name of the product or service? The solar home system. Make sure you're very clear on the name of the products and service. And then this is where you say, how many of those did you actually sell? And that means, you know, if you're selling something like bricks, you're probably going to sell a lot more than if I'm selling 1 solar home system completely, or if I'm selling architectural services to a couple of families, those numbers would be lower. But let's say I sold 4 of those over the last quarter. And then this question, what percentage of the product or service is estimated to have gone to low-income households? For some of you, that may be very clear. You are specifically targeting low-income homeowners, and so you think 100% have gone to those families. However, some of you are selling products or services that may be sold to homeowners, but some may be sold to the government or to a community, like a local municipality, or to a business, a corporation. And then you may say, well, I think about 50% of my products or services were sold to low-income households. And then what is the value received from the sale? So this, I'll be adding a little note here, but the revenue received from the sale is not per product or service, it's total. So if I've sold 4 solar home systems, I got $1,000 from selling all 4 of them. It's not $1,000 per system, it's the total for all of them that I sold. And then again, I'll just indicate my currency. Another thing that we check is if I add up all of the revenues you received from the different products and services you sold, I would expect that that revenue is higher than the profit. So earlier there was a question about your profit from the quarter. If your profit is well above your revenue, that would be something I would flag and follow up on just to check. So again, this is a place to make sure, did I accidentally type an extra 0? Did I leave a 0 out? Just double check that. And then the last part is about employees. Let's say I have 10 employees total. How many full-time employees do you have? I have 8. And then how many of those 8 full-time employees are women? Let's say I have 4. And then part-time employees, how many did I have? 2. And then how many were women? Let's say 1. Another thing I'm seeing here is that this total number of employees is greater than or less than these 2 numbers. So it should be that full-time employees and part-time employees add up to this first number, and that you're not including someone that maybe volunteers or isn't actually an employee or staff of your organization. So those numbers should all add up and make sense. So there's one more question in the survey, and that's just about other impact metrics that you might collect. And I have received data back where some people are collecting themselves, the number of households that they've served, which is probably something we'll be collecting as well. They, if they're doing renewable energy, they might say energy saved. There's other metrics that if you share here, I think I was using the example of a solar home system. So let's say I'm also collecting data on energy saved for a household. I would just type that in, and that way we know that you're collecting that and can either start collecting that as well, or find some way to promote that specific metric in what we're doing, in the ways that we're trying to promote you all, and also trying to promote the startup or the accelerator for startups like you. So was that fairly straightforward? Do you have any questions about those metrics? I can also go forwards and backwards on pages.
Great, thanks, Amanda. Any questions from the startups?
Can you go backward a little bit, asking about the last one more. Yeah. Yes, this one related to the overlap quarter. Yes, this, for example, talking about 2021 quarter 1, and over the last quarter talking about 2020 quarter 4, right? This data.
So the last survey that we did went out at the end of 2021, the first quarter. So the last survey that we sent, which I believe was March, sometime in April, I think maybe it was a week or 2 into April. Normally it would be like around April 1st. That covered January, February, March of 2021.
So this data in Q1 21st. Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to share the data from Q1 of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, so we usually send out the survey at the end of that particular quarter. So you'll have to input the quarter that has just passed, right, Amanda?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, clear. So I'm confused, maybe put some data input from 2020.
Yeah, and if that happens, if you realize after the fact, I put in the wrong thing, or we got these updated numbers that were late, if you let us know, then I can correct that very easily in the data that we have. Kath, in your experience with the startups, you know them obviously much better than I do. Are there some of the startups that would have more than one product or service that they're selling?
There would be, yes. I think actually Kongi has started selling an additional product. So you have two different types of
Yes.
materials, right, Kongi?
Yes. I sold brick and another ventilation block.
So two different kinds. Yeah. So if you sold those two, you, in this question, how many different products or services did you sell? And you put two, you're asked to put in the information for the first one, and then there'll be a second screen that pops up for product and service number two. What's the name of that one? How many did you sell, etc. So that's a really good example of when you might put a number other than one. Any other questions or things that are not clear?
There's a question from Tim in the chat. Will you be able to share the results of the survey with our cohort?
Yeah. So I do really want to share the results, and I hope it will be much faster turnaround time going forward, where you would all get a one pager of the cohort results from this. It's just that this quarter, we're still working out some of the kinks in the data. So I want to make sure that when I'm sharing it back, it's the correct data. So just wanted to go through this with you all. And again, we'll be reaching out just to correct a couple of things that I think were perhaps misunderstood the first time. And then every quarter we'd be sharing back with you. Thanks for that question. And thanks, Kath. For some reason, I can't see the chat anymore.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Amanda. Any more questions around the survey?
Does everyone feel better, those on the call, with answering these questions? More comfortable?
So, Amanda, I think maybe almost everyone on the call has already answered the Q1 survey.
Okay.
And if there are, sort of discrepancies or a little bit of a misunderstanding on some of the questions, what should be our immediate next step in terms of like correcting that information that was submitted?
Sure. So I flagged the ones that are either questions or need to be updated. And so I don't know what you think the best way is. I can go through you if you want to communicate directly with those that need to make updates, or if you want me to do it directly. But it's only a couple of questions in the case of updating it. And then I can update the information on my end.
Yeah, maybe we can put you in touch, Amanda, with the startups directly, just so that since you have access to the back end, it might be a lot easier. But we'll, of course, be in the loop to kind of coordinate that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, cool. So just a question, from those who are in this call. So that's My Dream Home, Affordable Abodes, Billion Bricks, and Socialite. Everybody answered the Q1 survey.
Yes, yes, we answered.
Yes. Okay. And then are there a few things that you
Yes.
feel you'll need to correct based on today's walkthrough?
For me, I will review a little bit on data that I input because I may confuse because the data that I submit, for example, the first survey that you sent, and then I submitted on 10 March, and because I think 10 March is not yet finished the March, that's why I think of the 2020 also include, and the second one, it was sent, you said it May, so I think maybe collecting data because I not include the other month, so I may do some review and then send back.
Okay, cool.
And
What about
I'll also double check and see, because we did have a quarter before this where we did the survey, but it wasn't as comprehensive yet. So you may have filled out the right quarter, but I'll double check and see if everyone has filled out this last quarter Q1, and then also follow up with any potential changes to data.
Okay, cool. What about you, Tim or Annabelle?
For us, just wondering if there's a way that we can backtrack or check the data we inputted just so we can double check.
All right.
Yeah, I can share, if that's helpful, I can share everyone's responses with you individually.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Annabelle. Tim or Nick?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I see Nick from Tap Effect has just joined us. Hi, Nick. We're actually kind of wrapping up the session, but this is a recorded session, so happy to send over the recording. But just wanted to ask if you were able to answer our last quarterly survey that we sent out.
Yeah, I filled it out. Yeah, not sure if it was correct or not.
Okay. Did you have any questions, or were confused by any of the questions that you want to clear up today?
No questions from memory. It was okay, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll put everybody in touch with Amanda directly, and then maybe Amanda, if you could just maybe share some of the answers that they had already filled out, just so that they can also check whether they missed any questions or answered, incorrectly before, and then we could, kind of help them correct some of that data and information for this last quarter survey.
Great. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you continuing to work with me on this, and getting up early to be on this call.
All right. Any last questions before we end today, everybody? Nothing more? Okay, cool. So just a reminder to everyone that we've sent out links for you to schedule the final mentorship call with Ian. I think some of you have already signed up for that this week. So those are ongoing. If you haven't signed up for a slot for the mentorship call yet, please get in touch with Abby. I think she sent you an email already. And then, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us over Telegram or email. So I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll put you in touch with Amanda over email. Thank you so much, Amanda, for making time. I know it's very late where you are.
Yeah, thank you all, and we'll be in touch. And looking forward to working with this on you. Working on this with you. Sorry, it is late. Thanks
No
all.
worries. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great morning.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.